All right, good morning, everyone. Today we are going to be reviewing races, and our goal today is to figure out if we are actually following all of the steps of the races process. So hopefully today you noticed that I posted this poster with your assignment today, and it shows you for each letter of race what you should be doing. So the R is to restate. We're going to restate the question as a statement, and it can also be combined with the A, the answer, where you're answering the parts of the question. C, remember, means cite. This is where you cite evidence from the text. And you should be using these sentence starters to kind of help you to make sure that you're doing that. So things like according to the text, in paragraph, say number 5, it says this, the author states, for example. Those are all good ways to help you make sure that you're including things directly from the text. The last part is to explain. So how did this evidence that you included support your answer? So some things you can do to help you start your explanation are these sentence starters. Now I understand. As you can see, this explains or proves or shows. So those sentence starters are going to help you to make sure you're including all of the parts. So what I did was I pulled some responses from one of last week's questions, and we're going to go through those and talk about which parts of the race strategy did they do and which parts did they maybe forget. So let's look at our first one. The author's perspective was that he is liking it because it is keeping kids safe. This was about the learning from home article and about how teachers and students are having to be creative and what kinds of issues are arising with online learning. So we want to think R and A first. Did this person restate the question? Well, the question was, what is the author's perspective? And they said the author's perspective was, so that's the restating part right there. Now, did they answer the question? He is liking it because it is keeping kids safe. So they restated the question and they told us that the author feels positive about this learning from home. The author is liking it. Did this person cite any evidence? Well, I don't see any of these sentence starters here. I don't see anything that's from the text. So this person did RA, but did not cite or give or explain the evidence. So this is a response that would earn a 1 because they missed those steps. Let's look at the next one. I'm going to ask you guys to help me with this one. The author's opinion is that COVID-19 is making people do school at home. Okay, so did this person restate and answer the question? Ava J, did this person do that?
Yeah.
They did, yes. They restated the question. The author's opinion is, and then they gave an answer that COVID-19 is making people do school at home. Now, I have a question for you guys. Is that an opinion? Or is that a fact?
That's a fact.
Yeah, it's a fact. It's not an opinion. So even though this person answered the question, they did not answer it accurately because they didn't give an opinion. This is more of a main idea or a topic of the article because it's not telling us how the author feels about that. So even though they completed the R and the A, this is not an accurate answer. I also don't see any evidence cited or any explanations. So this would also be a 1 response. Let's look at this next one. The author feels that the educators are teaching people in creative ways. One reason is in the article, it said how people are going in front of people's windows and doing one-to-one lessons, or if people don't have internet. They drive buses in neighborhoods. And to me, that is creative. And it will probably be creative to the author in their opinion. Also, it talked about how they give out tablets or laptops to people that don't have them. So that is why I think the author feels like educators are being creative. Okay, so let's look at what's included here. Can somebody tell me which parts they see in this answer? Either Mrs. Bloom or Mrs. Novitsky. I can't see who's here. So if you guys could help me call on someone.
Let's choose, I can't see all of their faces because a lot of them have their cameras turned off, but let's start with Julie this morning. Julie, what part do you notice from our races activity in this passage?
I noticed that the person put that the author feels, so that's restating, and they answered it.
Perfect. Great job. So we have R and A here. Awesome. All right. What else do we see?
Let's see, how about we go to William?
They cited it and they did evidence.
Yeah, they gave us some evidence. They said people are going in front of people's windows to do lessons. If they don't have internet, they drive buses. And it also talked about how they give out tablets or laptops to people that don't have them. So they gave us some really good text evidence there. Did we see explanation in this response?
Let's see, what do you think? Nathan Bracey.
Yes.
Okay, where did you see explanation? What did they say that was an explanation?
So that's why I think.
Okay. Yep, they said to me that is creative, and it would probably be creative to the author, and that's why I feel like the educators are being creative. Yeah, so I agree that I think this person was attempting to explain the evidence. But I'm having a hard time understanding all of the evidence they included. For example, they said if people don't have internet, they drive buses in neighborhoods. I'm not really understanding how that helps the students. So I think that an explanation of that would have been helpful. So they could have said something like, this explains or this proves. Now I understand. Maybe I'm assuming that they were saying the buses have internet and they can park them in the neighborhood so kids can have internet access. So a little bit more explanation on this one would have elevated the answer to a stronger response. So they included accurate evidence from the text, but their explanations were not very clear. They did say that it was showing creativity, but a bit more explanation about this one piece of evidence would have helped this one. All right, we have one more response to look at. The author's perspective is that during the coronavirus, teachers have found helpful ways to still connect with their students. One example of this is a lot of districts around the world have tried to overcome the digital divide. The digital divide is the difference between kids with internet and kids without internet. With the digital divide being overcome, students can connect to their teachers when they need assistance. Another example is a lot of teachers have been doing video lessons, and some teachers have even gone to their students' lawns with a whiteboard for a 6 feet away one-on-one lesson. This proves that teachers have done and are doing many different ways to connect with their students to teach them. The author thinks that teachers have thought of many ways to try and connect with their students and to teach and help them. All right, so this is a long response. Let's discuss what's in here. Do we see all parts of races?
Let's see, what do you think, Alma? And she left the meeting.
Oh, okay.
Let's go to Matthew. Almost back. Alma, do you want to help answer? I called on Matthew, but he hasn't unmuted yet. And you're still muted too. There you go.
What's the answer?
So looking at this response, can you tell us a little bit about this response and what pieces of races we see here?
They did so they restated the answer. And they included
The author's perspective is that during the coronavirus, teachers have found helpful ways to still connect with their students. So they did the R and the A. What else do we notice?
well, they did a C. Well, they did the C part with cite the answer.
What's something that they cited, and how did you know it was from the text?
Because they said one example of this is a lot of districts around the world have tried to overcome the digital divide.
Yeah, that one example at the beginning of this sentence right here gave me a clue that they were telling me something that came out of the text. Did this person explain that piece of evidence?
Yes.
Yes. In their evidence, they talked about the digital divide, and then they explained what the digital divide is and how it is being overcome, or how it's helpful that that is being overcome. So this person did a really good job of using that sentence starter to give me a clue that evidence was coming, and then they explained to me what that evidence meant, so I understood how it related to the answer. Can someone point out if they see another piece of evidence with an explanation?
Let's see. How about Leah?
They said that another example is a lot of teachers have been doing video lessons, and some teachers have gone to their students' lawns with a whiteboard for a 6 feet away one-on-one lesson.
Yeah, that was a really strong piece of evidence. Did they explain that?
Yes.
Yeah, where do you see that, Leah?
They said this proves that teachers have done and are doing many different ways to connect with their students to teach them.
Perfect. Yeah, this part right here that says this proves, that's a clue to me that they're explaining why they included that evidence. So this was a very strong response because it included all of those parts of the racist strategy. The person included details that very clearly related back to their answer, that teachers are finding helpful ways to connect. All the evidence supported that idea. So this was a really strong response because of the evidence they included and the way that they explained the evidence. So my challenge for you today is to make sure that when you are doing your racist response today, that you are trying to write a response that looks just like that fourth example we looked at. Make sure that you're referring back to the chart and using those sentence starters, because those are going to force you to do the C and the E parts. Does anybody have any questions?
I do want to say, Ms. Hall, real quick, though, I even feel that level 4 could be elevated even more if you use quotation marks, because Ms. Hall said, can you tell where the evidence came from the text? Well, if you're writing it in your own words, it's sometimes difficult for us to tell that it came directly from the text. But if you put quotation marks around it, because you're taking it from that author, those are those author's words, then we can tell by those quotation marks that that was pulled directly from the text, and that we know you're not plagiarizing, right? Because you need those quotes around the author's words. Otherwise, it looks like you're using those words for your own words. So that level 4, that last one, could even be elevated even higher.
Yep.
Something to think about.
So if you're copying something exactly as the author wrote it, you're copying the exact words, you should be using those quotations. If you're paraphrasing, you wouldn't use quotations because that would look like you were copying it when you're restating it in your own words. So that's a good point to clarify. All right. Anyone have any questions? Give me a thumbs up if you feel like this was helpful to compare your answer, your previous answers to something else. Was helpful? All right, good. Perfect. So you have an article that is posted for you today. Some people were having trouble getting onto News ELA, so I also posted a PDF version of 2 levels. So choose the one that's better for you. And